Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dentistry Invest podcast. Interesting one today, related to finance, but not strictly purely finance, of course, but it is aligned with making your practice and you personally more profitable, and that is the topic of social media. And who better to join me on that subject than social media guru S? Is that a word? Guru S?
It is now.
Hazel. Hazel Woodward. How are you, Hazel?
Good, thanks, James. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm always wonderful. Thanks for asking. So, for those who don't know, Hazel runs the social media the social media, well, the company that assists dentists with their social media, which is called Lift. And Hazel knows
Yeah.
anything and everything marketing online and using social media to be our friends and hence leveraging our business. Isn't that right, Hazel?
That is right. So a
Something
little bit
like
about
that. Something like
something like that. So yes, my business is called Lift. And strangely enough, people always spell it with a Y, but it's actually with an I.
Wait,
Um
what? Just freeze there for 2 seconds. It's got a Y in the logo, doesn't it?
no, it's an I. It's Lift.
I thought that was a Y as well. So I am in the guilty camp for the thing that you just described. So and if anything, I might actually I can understand why that may have happened, right? Maybe is it I thought it was a Y in the logo, but anyway.
No,
I
so it's an acronym. So my husband actually came up with it. So when we went through the rebrand, I was like, I need to come up with a name that just easily rolls off the tongue. And then my husband was like, well, what about Lyft? I was like, well, where have you got that from? And he was like, so it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, all the platforms that we manage. So I was like, oh,
Oh,
that's
that's cool.
genius.
That's cool. Okay,
So yes,
that is
that's
cool. Okay, I like that. I like that. Yeah, I had a similar thing the other day, right? Um, so I help dentists manage their Facebook groups,
yep,
born out of Dentists Who Invest and the things that I learned along the way, which meant that I was able to enhance the power of my group and enhance the rate at which it grows. There's things that you inevitably notice and patterns that
yeah,
happen throughout that process. And basically, there's this chap. He had a group, and it was called Energized Dental Teams, right? And what he does
yes,
is he takes dentists up mountains, okay, to well, for on treks, mountaineering to enhance how cohesive they are as a team, right? And
yeah.
I was like, listen, I know that I can see the name. It just came to me in a moment of inspiration, peak performance dental teams, right? And I just brought both those things together. Anyway, that was just me sharing my moment of happiness. That was me sharing that moment. Yeah, I think you had to be there, but it was cool. But anyway, sorry, not to steal the limelight, Hazel. You were saying
I can't remember what I was saying now.
Lyft, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, right?
Yeah, so that's obviously the our brand name. My business has been running for just over 2 years, and we work almost exclusively. We do have a few clients not in dental, with dentists and dental practices, helping them raise their brand profile and brand awareness online. So
Very
that's
cool.
that's where we are. That's what we do.
Very, very, very cool. And you know what? Myself, I used to be anti Facebook, anti social media. I did not post for 5 years until one day I rocked up and I started this Facebook group called Dentistry Invest, right? True story, right? And then basically now I'm a huge proponent of social media, right? And I actually think social media gets a bad rep on the news. It's not representative of the love that you can get on there as well and the sense of community. And I actually think the 95%, 90% positivity vastly outweighs what we hear about on the TV, which is a huge misconception, or which is why we don't always have a perception which is aligned with actual reality. And I didn't realize that until I went through the process of putting out what I knew, sharing my knowledge and sharing
Yeah,
what I loved online until I was able to receive that back, because it's like a mirror. It's like whatever you put out you get back, and if you put out love you get back love, because why would
yeah.
anybody be anything but loving if you're constantly giving them love? Yeah, okay, on occasion miscommunications happen, whatever, I get that, right? But those instances are vastly outweighed by the huge amount of positivity. That's my 2 cents.
I completely agree with you on that. So I think it is like a mirror. And I think when people say, oh, social media is really toxic, it's not a reflection of the content that's being put out on social media, because if someone has that toxic mindset or a negative mindset, it doesn't matter how positive the posts are going to be, they're always going to see the negative in it. And I think that is why it does get a bad rep. But also as well, we have to think about cybersecurity and, protecting the mental health and well-being of like the younger generation. That's why there's minimum age limits and things like that in place. But generally, on the whole, social media isn't going anywhere. So you either need to use it or get left behind.
I agree. I really do think that everyone should have some form of social media aligned with them professionally, and as well maybe personally for me, maybe that's more optional. Professionally, I really think that you're missing out on a huge trick to enhance your brand effectively, to be your marketing and therefore grow your business. What are your thoughts on that one? Why do you view it as essential for dentists?
Yeah, so I actually have the same. So I've deleted my own personal Instagram account. So, but because I found it very difficult to separate work from personal. So I've deleted that, but I've still used my work business Instagram account as mine, if that makes sense. So I'm still active on the platform and things like that. But I think dentists in particular have to understand that, you can have a not great website that's got a really bad patient experience, that's not optimized for mobile, but still actually capture patients online using social media, because that is essentially your shop front, and especially more important if your website is you've made it yourself, or it's old, or you don't update it or anything like that. Social media is an opportunity for you to, it's so easy to update, it's in the moment, it's authentic, but then it also allows you to craft the type of message so you hit the emotional heartstrings of the patient that you're trying to attract as well.
Yeah, 100%. Anything more to add on that?
No.
Those are the main points. Yeah, I get you. No, I totally feel you. Yeah, because here's the thing with any business, right? I heard someone break down businesses very eloquently the other day, and they said basically every business has three parts, right? You have your marketing, you have your sales, and you have your product, right? And that is every
Yeah.
business. It only has three parts, right? And I love when someone simplifies things like that, right? And you have these little frameworks which are so neat through which you can view these hugely complex things, okay? Because it helps you make decisions, right? So let's elaborate on that
Yeah.
slightly, right? So every business has marketing, it has sales, and it has the product, right? So what's the product? The product is the dentistry, right? So that's our
Yeah.
job, the dentist, to get as good as we can at dentistry, right? That's our remit, yeah? We can be the best dentist in the whole wide world, but in order for us to have a business, someone has to buy our services, right? So that's where sales and marketing come in, right? So sales is what you say to the patient when they're in the chair, right? So you give them an accurate description of the value that you will give them on the back end. And then at that point, when the patient is able to see that value, then they enter into a transaction with you, i.e., we've sold to them, right? That's sales. Okay. And again, I'm just skirting over a huge subject. There's way more to it, right? Because you can be really, really, really good at dentistry, right? But here's the thing, you can give someone a huge amount of value. How capitalism works is we try to reclaim some of that value. And the more value that we're able to reclaim, the more profitable our business is. Obviously, there's going to be an upper limit on that. And finding the upper limit is part of business, right? So that's sales. Still with me?
Yeah.
Still with me, Hazel, yeah? Following me, yeah? So now we're on to your forte, which is
Following you.
marketing. Marketing, yeah, exactly. Because that's basically what social media is, right? And here's the thing, I feel that we have a somewhat archaic version of marketing most of the time. And the reason is we expect that when we want to get the word out about our practice, I still think that people, well, what we're really looking at is cost per pair of eyes, right? That makes marketing as efficient as possible, right? So if you're paying 20p per pair for every person to see your advert in a newspaper or a TV or whatever, however that looks, right? Here's the thing about social media, when it's done well, it's pretty much free. Okay, and there's a ton of people on there, But then what happens is you get into your content game. How strong is your content game? Okay, because it's like
Yeah.
what Gary Vee says is the three C's of success on the internet: content, content, and content, right? How does your content compare to everybody else? How entertaining is it? How interesting is it? And I know that that's what you do, Hazel, right? There's the content side of things.
Yeah.
Cool. Maybe you could tell us a little
Yeah.
bit more about that. Because here's the thing, I bet you see tons of content, maybe some good, some not so good. How do you feel that dentists could be doing that better out there? What is your words of wisdom on that subject? The three C's of success: content, content, content.
So before I kind of go in deep dive into the content, I want to just kind of elaborate on like the marketing section as well that you're
Sure,
saying.
sure.
So obviously we've got the product, which is the dentist, and we've got the sales, which is the conversation with the patient. But if those patients don't know that you exist, then you're never going to be able to have those conversations and then sell them that treatment and get them out of pain or whatever it is that that emotional state that they're in. But I think what a lot of people have a huge misconception about is that social media is easy. They think I'll just whack a few posts out on social media and that's it, my diary will be full. And unfortunately, in reality, that is just not the case, because there's so much demand and so much competition out there in terms of everybody else doing the same thing, because the barrier is so low. It just makes it more difficult for everybody else. And also, I think a very savvy very savvy dental practice will recognize that social media is just one channel. So it might be different platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google My Business. It's just one channel, and you need to be looking at the other channels within your marketing mix as well, so that you're capturing patients, recurring patients that come back, and you can upsell them more and more and more treatments, or you can get them to bring in referrals and things like that. So social media is a fundamental part of a marketing mix, but it's not just the main component, if that makes sense. But then in terms of content, I'm not sure about you, James, but when I scroll on social media, all I see are teeth.
Oh, particularly on Instagram, yeah.
Yeah, it's just teeth. And that just goes to show how the algorithm learns about your interests and what the type of content you prefer to consume as a user. So it serves you, like a restaurant, more content that you're going to consume to keep you on the platform for longer, so it can serve you more ads, so then it can make more revenue. That's how the social media platforms all work. So what you've got to try and do is you've got to try and cut through that noise. So if you've got a patient who is maybe Googling Invisalign or dental implants or certain composite bonding, all of a sudden they're going to start seeing lots of content around that particular topic in their newsfeed. So you've got to make sure as a practice owner that your content stands out from the crowd, because you've got to make it scroll stopping. And that is where a lot of people fall down at the first hurdle. They just put poor quality images on. They don't write captions. They don't use a hashtag, and they think they can just sling anything out online and it's just going to hit, and it just doesn't.
100%, yeah. And if you had I know that you've just given us a little bit of an overview then of the things that we could do better. Let's build on that. What are the common things that you see that you feel should be done much better or could be done much better with these?
So consistency. So that's another C. So we're now on 4
Oh,
C's.
there we go. Content, and consistency. I hope you're
Consistency.
listening, Gary V. Do you like Gary V, by the way? Do you listen to him?
I don't, but I've heard of him, so I know who he is, but I don't consume any of his content. I'll be honest, his voice annoys me, so I just have
Do
to
you know
turn him
what?
off.
Do you know what, right? He is a little divisive. He's got his lovers and his people that don't love him so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a bit Marmite.
Anyway, anywho, sorry, you were saying
No,
consistency.
yeah, so consistency. So you have to make a commitment to putting content out there to feed the algorithm the information that it needs, so it knows who to serve your content to. And the only way that you can do that is by posting consistently, whether that's once a week, once a month, once a fortnight. The more often you're creating and posting content, the more the algorithm will learn about who it is that you're trying to target and serve that content to that person. But there are minimums that we would recommend. So, and it's a balance between, are you able to create good quality content at the level that you want to post it online. So for most people, we would say twice a week is plenty when you post into the grid or the feed, and 2 to 3 times a day if you post into stories, because obviously we know that stories aren't around very long in the last 24 hours. But for my clients and for my customers, we always post a minimum of 3 times a week. So it just kind of gives them that competitive edge. And it is a balance between gathering the content and getting it online. You don't want to commit to posting every day if after 4 days you're like, I've got nothing else to post, I don't know what I'm doing. You've got no strategy.
I've got another C.
Okay.
Compounding. Because it compounds, right? It grows exponentially, the returns that you get whenever you begin to post. With me?
Yeah, so we call that critical mass.
Oh, I like that.
Another C.
That's good. That's good. Critical mass. So maybe just to elaborate a little bit on that, that's where things you're posting, you're not seeing much results. All of a sudden, it's a trickle through the floodgates, then the flipping dam busts, and
Yeah.
all this goodwill comes your way, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably the easiest way to describe it in terms of, can you revive a dead account? So a lot of people will have an Instagram account or a Facebook page somewhere, and they've not posted on it for years and years and years. And what you've got to do is you just have to start, kind of get over yourself and get over that barrier and just start posting. And then over time, the more that you factor into creating the content in your day-to-day life, and you get that content posted on there, then it will gain this critical mass or critical momentum.
You know what? Honestly, hand on my heart, I fully believe that social media to this day, even though it's been out for, it's been a thing for however many years, like 15 years. When did Zuck start Facebook? Like 2007, 2008-ish. Anyway.
2006, I think it was.
Oh, there we go. There we go. So basically, even though it's been out for however long, right, we tend to think that it's saturated. It's not. Yeah, I see things all the time, and I'm like, listen, I fully think that that is an opportunity waiting for somebody to capitalize on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: it all comes back. I feel that it all comes back to, well, one of the C's that we talked about earlier, which is content, right? Because you getting yourself out there, producing content that is of a decent standard, which only comes through iterating your original content. It only comes from those first few iterations of getting better and better and better. See content posting as you having the opportunity to improve and you consistently getting better, rather than it being the be all and end all. And the thing about it is, you never become a pro at something until you do it in the first instance. It's just that hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, right, for your business, it is a land of golden opportunities if you can go there. And it's a big if, because how many people would willingly take their phone out of their pocket and make a video and record, right? Well, my point is that when you can go there, you gain the skills of a content maker.
Yeah.
You get better at talking. The words just flow out of your mouth and it feels incredible. Okay. And as well as that, the goodwill that you throw out online will literally make its way back into your pocket as opportunities and also as remuneration financially, right? But you have to open that door. That's maybe like door 5, but you have to open door 1, 2, and 3 to get to door 5. And that's how it looks. And everyone feels like that. Everyone feels like that. That's the point. You're not the person who uniquely feels that you're reticent to shooting videos and put them online, right? And it's precisely because everybody lets that feeling hold them back that people don't capitalize on these opportunities. So when you recognize that, and you recognize that that's precisely the reason why you must do it, then that's a huge mindset flip. Boom.
Yeah, and I think you are right as well. So, there's nothing wrong with repurposing content. So if you put a post out and you're struggling for content 6 months later and you think you need a bit more inspiration, every single post that you put out is like a back catalogue of content. So you can go back through and see which content performed well, which content resonated with your audience, which one got a lot of likes and comments, and kind of dig that out of the archives and either do a throwback post, or if it was a carousel post, change it into a reel, and then you're breaking down those barriers of entry, of getting more content out through your back catalogue of posts that you've already got there, that you've already that works.
Boom. Let's talk about the other benefits of social media aside from the one that everybody, I suppose, expects, which is financial? Because there's huge other benefits too, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, so I think if you think in terms of branding, it's really important to have a cohesive brand message. So the color, from really basic things like the color scheme on your website needs to be, really visible and clear through your Instagram and your Instagram feed and your grid and everything. And obviously your tone of voice. So it's all got to match. But also you got to think about, where are you driving this traffic to? So you want to get these patients off the social media platform. Are you sending them to your website? If you are sending them to your website, then you've got to think, like, okay, is my website, is it mobile optimized? Is it, set up? Is the book now button right at the top? Is it, smacking them around the face, we want you to book in as a patient? That's something to remember. But also that then needs to feed into the copy. So the copy is basically the words in the captions. And if you've got a really strong SEO and keyword strategy, you can feed that into your social media copy, and then that will then elevate your SEO as well, which happens on your website.
Very, very, very cool. Yeah. And one that I observed was the love and positivity that you get back in your DMs, as in your private messages.
Yeah.
It's a huge one. And you never see that until you're on the other side of the screen. You're not consuming the content, but creating the content.
See, that's another C. That's community.
Community, consuming and creating. There we go.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's park
It
this.
should be like the 7 C's of social media.
I think it's going to be the 70 or the 700 at this rate. At this rate. Anyway, I think we should just park the seas for the moment, because it's probably getting slightly tiresome. As much fun as you and I are having, Hazel, it's probably getting tiresome to listen to. So let's move on. But wouldn't you agree? The DMs, right? The things that people send you on the back end that you'll never see, right? You'll never see until you actually make the content yourself, because people viewing you from the outside in don't see those opportunities. Only you can see those, and you only get to see them whenever you put stuff out there, right?
Yeah. And then thinking about it practically from a practice's perspective, you've got to make sure that you've got the right person on the back end to answer those messages. And it can answer them in a timely way. So if you've got a patient that's booking in to say, I'm in pain, I need an emergency appointment, can I see you today? But that message then isn't picked up till the next day. That patient is potentially going to go somewhere else because they have this desire to get out of pain. So thinking it from a practical practice perspective, you've got to think, am I able to service that platform, the messages, and it's the right person on the other end. But from a clinician's perspective, if a clinician's putting content out and is creating community and a brand awareness for themselves, then yeah, it's a really good way to kind of break down those barriers with patients and begin to develop that relationship on a one-to-one basis before they even step into the practice.
Do you feel that every single dental practice should have social media?
Without a doubt.
Boom. Right.
I don't see why you wouldn't have one. Well, I do know why they wouldn't have one, and we get the same reasons all the time. I haven't got time. I haven't got anyone in the practice who knows what they're doing. And then they maybe do have someone in the practice, but the content isn't that great, or they haven't got a camera, so they can't get the pictures, or they can't get consent from patients. Those are the main reasons that we come across time and time and time again. They're so simple to overcome.
This is it. Well, I feel like the reason those people place those barriers in front of themselves, it's all about priorities for me, because it's not like those are things, it's not like someone saying, go out and flipping move this huge mountain. Are you with me? It can be physically done. It's more of a psychological hurdle than a physical hurdle.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, I get it. Like when you run a business, right? You got 168 hours in a week, right? And you have to choose where you spend those hours to get the most return, right? And I feel like part of where that comes from, that sentiment, is that those business owners feel that if they spend hours on that, there's not going to be an ROI, or it's not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had this entire conversation actually with the team at Enquiry Bot on the webinar that we did last week, because organic social, which is what we do, so that's not paid social, it can be very tricky or very difficult to track the return on investment, because it's not actual physical money that you're using, it's time. It's the time it takes to create the content. It's the time it takes to create the community to respond to messages. So the ROI is very difficult to track unless you have a paid tool or a feature that allows you to track those conversations and those conversions. And there are things out there which you can use, like chatbots and stuff like that. So yeah, return on investment for organic social media is difficult to track, but doesn't mean that you shouldn't be on the platform.
Well, for me, right, I mean, I look back on my journey and my content now versus my content then is completely different, right? Here's the thing, I only really learned what hit and what didn't hit so much just via posting. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So I almost had to start from somewhere and then just iterate to that point. We fully understand. And like, I look back and think there was a lot of time that I plowed into that without even realizing I was doing it. At least it was fun for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. At least it was fun. But seriously, when you get past that point where you've got some followers and you're not just throwing this stuff out into a vacuum, right? And not
Although
hearing
it does feel like that most of the
it,
time.
it does, honestly, it does, right? And that's precisely the point that everyone else begins, their attention begins to wander, and that's fine, right?
Mm.
That's fine. I get it. The reason, honestly, the reason, hand on heart, why I wanted to get Hazel onto the podcast today, number one, because you're good friends, and also number two, as well as that, also number two, as well as that, is because I fully believe that this can enhance every single dentist's career, right? It's a huge trick that we're missing. We don't talk about it in universities. It's not even on the curriculum in most universities is made in the 80s. Like, let's be real, and there's all these really amazing things out there that can enhance your career big time when you're happy to go there. And I swear, even to this day, there's still a million, billion, trillion opportunities. The competition is actually not that intense, actually not that fierce, providing you have a decent level of content game, you can win. And that is the marketing side of your business sorted, right? There's only three components to any business: marketing, sales, and product, of course. Your job is product, okay, as a dentist, right? Your job is also the sales, right? But here's the thing: how are we actually going to get people into that funnel unless we have marketing, right? Now, you can have word of mouth, I get it, and all of these things, right? When there's a really easy way to shout about the service that you give people, right, which is what social media is, why should we not be shouting about it? Which is exactly why we're here in this podcast.
Yeah. And you know what, as well, that's a really good point, because I think social media is often, like I mentioned at the start of the podcast, is kind of seen as this like magic wand that I'll just post a few posts on social media and my diary will be full and it'll be great and I'll be an influencer and I'll have all these amazing patients. And in reality, that just doesn't happen. I'm going to pull a statistic out at you because I know that you like statistics.
Oh yeah.
So on Facebook, before I do the statistic part, so one of the things
Oh, you tease. Sorry.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm getting to it. So one of the things that practices come to us with is a barrier to say, I don't want to bore my audience. I don't want to just bombard them with lots and lots and lots of messages or the same thing, because they'll get bored of me and then they'll unfollow us, or they'll get angry and they'll unfollow us. And this is where I bring this statistic out, because on Facebook, the latest statistics, this was just before Christmas, so that's how new it is. On average, 0.3% of your audience gets served your content at any one time. 0.3%.
Jeez, really?
Yeah, that's how low it is. And then I think on Instagram, it is something like 3% or 2.5%. So that's just them being served your content. Think about how less than it is for engagement rate. So engagement rate is either someone watching a story or watching a video, leaving a comment, leaving a like, or saving your content on Instagram. And it just blows my mind how people can think it's just not worth doing social media because there's so much competition. But I think kind of touches back on what you said before about mindset. You just got to flip your mindset. There's not so much competition, there's so much opportunity, and that's the difference.
There's always room for more people with decent content game as well.
Yeah.
How do we get better at content? You just got to
Make
do
more
it.
content.
Got to make content, right? It's a skill. It is actually a skill. And I promise you, the rewards, the results are flipping worth it. Big,
Yeah.
huge, absolutely huge. There was one more thing. There was something that I was going to add in there as well, and it was on dental practices posting content, and this is it. It's just come back to me. Everybody feels that the reason why patients might get annoyed, right, is because potentially we might spam them with salesy stuff, right? There's a really
Yeah.
easy way to fix that. Don't post that much salesy stuff, right?
Yeah.
Post value, right?
Exactly.
In fact, your ratio should be at least 4-to-1 value to sales. Okay. And that's one of the biggest things that people don't always realize. They think that they have to go full sales whenever they're on there. Actually, we want people to engage with the content, right? I
Mm.
promise you, if you have some sort of ratio, and I think mine is, I mean, I genuinely enjoy posting content. Like I love it, right? It's fun for me, right?
Yeah.
And the higher you can make that ratio, right? When you do come with some sort of proposal to your audience, actually you'll make more returns by
Yeah.
by observing that ratio than you would even if you just constantly posted sales stuff all the time, right? That's the thing, right? It's actually more profitable to do it that way if that is the intention or the goal of your business, right? 5 posts, 5 value posts, 6 value posts, 7 value posts. What's a value post? A value post is giving some knowledge or information that will be beneficial to your audience. What's the reason why they followed you? To learn about how to brush their teeth, to learn about how to look after their crowns, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this also feeds into, so we had this conversation, God, it must be about 18 months ago when it was jab, jab, right hook, and it was more like jab, 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 now right hook.
Yeah.
And I
So
think this
just to clarify, jab, 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 right hook, right?
is a book.
That's value, 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 sales, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you kind of warm people up, right? And that's another Gary V ism, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think where a lot of practices kind of fall down, and this is not because they do it intentionally, it's just because there's no one in the practice with the expertise, of also, so they know exactly how to leverage social media properly. But they just think in the moment, okay, I need to get a post on today. What can I do? Okay, we've got a teeth whitening offer. I'll just put that on. And then a couple of days later is, right, I need to put a post on social media. I don't know what to do. Oh, we still got that tooth whitening promotion. I'll just put that on. Whereas there's no value and there's no strategy behind it, and it doesn't feed into the wider marketing objectives of the practice or the business. And you can't just download a content calendar from somewhere because that's generic. Your social media game, for want of a better word, has to be linked to your marketing strategy. So if you know you've got an open day, an Invisalign open day coming up in April, a lot of your value posts will be all around Invisalign, not selling the open day, but what is Invisalign? How long does it take? Does it hurt? Get a testimonial from a patient, maybe do some before and afters. Highlight how you can keep your retainers clean to keep them invisible. There's 7 different value posts that you can do. And then on the 8th one, go, we've given you all this information about Invisalign. Why don't you come and see if it works for you? Not like, here's your open day. It's come and find out a bit more. And that's the key. So and that feeds into your marketing goals and aims for the practice as a whole over the year, rather than what do I need to post today? I'll do tooth whitening. And then they get frustrated because they're like, social media doesn't work. Well, no, it doesn't work when you're doing it like that.
It's true. I feel as well that people are way too corporate on it a lot of the time. They
Yeah.
post as if they've got this huge brand like Coca-Cola, right? Whereas in actual reality, your greatest strength is your individuality and your personality. So show it. Pictures of
Be Aldi.
like Aldi, huh?
Like Aldi. We love Aldi in our office. So
Oh,
Aldi
do
are
they do
just,
stuff like that on Aldi social?
oh my God, Aldi are hilarious. If you don't follow Aldi on Twitter or Instagram, you need to go and do it, because these share screenshots. So someone will leave a comment and they're just so like quippy back and so sarcastic. And it's just, it really just, they've got their target audience in mind and they've just nailed the tone of voice. It is exceptional to watch.
And look what just happened right there, right? you just said to me, follow Aldi because it's funny, right?
Yeah,
And there's an exact example, right? Are you with me?
exactly.
So they obviously, I have never seen, I didn't even know Aldi, had social media. I presumed they did, but I've never checked it out, right? You're telling me that it's funny. So what am I probably going to do after this podcast? I'm probably going to follow Aldi, right? Are you with me?
Yeah.
And what if
Even if you
Aldi?
don't shop there, but it's, do you know what I mean? And then it's just, there's different reasons why people follow different accounts, and they may never, ever, become a patient at the practice, but you never know. They might recommend your account to someone who is going to become a patient at the practice. And that patient might have dual full arch treatment. You just don't know.
Take note, dental practices. Aldi is killing it on social media. Go and observe.
But I just want to caveat that with, don't just start being sarcastic and rude to potential patients.
Oh yes, don't do that.
You'll have your hold up in front of the CQC and it'll be my fault.
Not that part, not that part about Aldi. But yes, anyway, Hazel, if you could go out there and wave your wand and encourage any dentist who's on the fence about social media who might be listening to this podcast, what words of wisdom would you offer to her or him?
I think it would be, so those practices that really, really leverage social media phenomenally well, they prioritize it. So it's ingrained into every person's role within the practice. It's not an afterthought. So for example, when you're doing treatment consultations at the start of treatment, they're taking the before photos and they're already thinking, okay, this is what this photo is going to look like on a before and after. So then when they've done the treatment and they come back, they get them in exactly the same spot, so you can see the before and after side by side really nicely. And also asking for referrals, consenting patients more than once for the images to be used on social media. That's really important. So I think those practices that really nail that internal process will always do well on social media. If you're a practice that's never done anything before, then I would say just start, but start as yourself, as a clinician. So just start putting your own cases out there. And if you're really worried what people are going to think, just put your account as private, and then just start to perfect it and just overcome that hurdle of posting. And then over time, you change your account from private to public, and just learn and have fun with it. Just have fun. If you don't like it, actually, this is my biggest tip. So people say to me like, oh my God, I posted something and I got loads of really negative marks. What am I going to do? And I just go, that's how you delete it. Press that button. and they go, what do you mean? And I'm like, just delete it. Nothing's going to happen. The world's not going to end. Your phone's not going to explode. Just press delete and start again and do another one.
Agreed, agreed. And by the way, that's in the like flipping minute minority of times that
Yeah.
there ever is an issue along those lines. And I think that we as humans, sometimes we're so focused on the disadvantages that we forget to look at the advantages. Because
Yeah.
as human beings, we're like conditioned to seek certainty and seek safety, right? But that
Yeah.
also means that the opportunity cost can be huge, which is basically what we're talking about. One more thing on the content thing, and then we'll wrap up. So here's an analogy that I absolutely love. Whenever you're thinking about going to the gym, right? You don't
Okay.
sit around. Oh yeah, we've all been there, right? You don't sit around thinking yourself, wow, I'm gonna wait until I get huge biceps and huge pecs and lose a load of weight before I go, right? Yeah. Then go to the gym, right? That's basically, so that would be crazy, right? So you have to go to the gym to get the reps in to get those things, right? And social media is exactly the same. It's like, oh, I'm gonna wait around until my content game is really good. Are you with me? But actually, in reality, the best place to go and improve that would be to get the reps in, basically,
Yeah, to post the content.
which is an analogy I really, really, really love. Hazel, you've been really generous with your time today and with your knowledge. Where can people find out more about what you do?
So they can follow us on Instagram. We are at Lift Social, or you can visit my website, liftsocial.co.uk, or just hook me up on LinkedIn, because that's where I spend most of my time these days. I love LinkedIn at the moment. So I will see you on the Linky Dink.
See you on the interwebs. Lovely. Also, Hazel is on the group too, Hazel Woodward. Feel free to reach out to her, the Dentistry Invest Facebook group, of course. Hazel, thank you so much once again. We shall catch each other very soon.